So I've been giving some thought over this last week to what is my spiritual lesson during this time in history. So I just want to share some of my thoughts on that. Last week, we focused on our responsibility with our speech, and primarily from the Buddhist perspective, but certainly just from all perspectives, what we owe to ourselves and to our family and to our communities and to the world with how we use our speech. So recently I've been, everybody's talking about what can we do, what should we do, what shouldn't we do? And I've heard a lot of coping with the external world as it is right now by people saying, well, I'm just going to tune out all the news. That's going to be my commitment so that I can become less attached, so have non-attachment with what's going on in the world around me. And I find this curious because I think that this is one of the biggest spiritual lessons we have, and maybe in our lifetime, is the non-attachment lesson, which is also very Buddhist, but it is, of course, looked at through all the lens of all different traditions. So I find it curious because in non-attachment, it's not about withdrawing our attention from whatever is disruptive in our life. It's about how we sit with that disruption. So I know that temporarily, to maintain our sanity, there is probably a smart move to limit that which we are taking in as, input. It's coming from so many directions, and we talked about this last week as well. Just even knowing what is truth is tricky right now. But it's an attitude, and it applies not just, non-attachment applies not just to what's happening externally in our world right now, but in general, non-attachment is a spiritual perspective and a spiritual home, a place that we reside in that allows us to live with life as it comes to us, with the reality of life, not how we protect ourselves from it or spin what it is, but with the truth of what is. And that is the place where we hear what City spoke to. I'm not sure what my role is. I think you said that, City. What is my exact role in this in women? We're talking about International Day of Women today. What is my role in supporting the liberation of women, the true liberation? And the place that we hear that what is ours to grab onto is when we're in non-attachment, when we're in attachment to an outcome or a perception or a fear. It's very hard to hear our piece because our mindset is not around that openness. So non-attachment is a life journey. It's not just something that is really useful right now in what the situation that we're holding in our country and how that affects the world. So one of the things that we do when we're looking at non-attachment is that it's easy for us, or it's easier for us to just push things out of the way. One way I can be unattached to something is by just not having it in my life as much as I can. So closing off input, whether it's, from the internet or it's from a certain person, we say, well, you don't have to invite people in that are causing you a lot of discord. So I want to look at how we can imagine into a paradigm where that may be true. There may be cases when we can handle it that way, but it may also be true that these things come in and we just allow them to be so without trying to push them away or remove them from our mind. What is the process? So the concept of non-attachment has been an honored place in the catalog of spiritual guidance. So it's central to spiritual streams from the East. It started out, many of the Eastern philosophies, but it's also present in the mystical corners, and it's present in every new and old tradition that we find. There's a teaching that may not be called non-attachment, but it's speaking to that. So it can easily be misconstructed as indifference. If I can create a state of indifference about it, I don't care. And non-attachment is not about not caring. It's about caring very much, but it's about not being disturbed by what is, and the difference between the disparity between what you would like it to be and what it is. I'm not attached to it becoming that which I would prefer. It doesn't mean I don't have a preference. And having a sense of not indifference towards something. I have an opinion, but I'm not in the way that my opinion is the only possibility, because again, non-attachment allows us to have an openness of possibility, because outcomes and solutions are so vast. I'm quite certain that it's hard for us right now to even have an imagination of a solution for what's going on in our country, to figure out how to make all these disparate ends come together in something productive and that is supportive to the entirety of our country, not just certain sections of our country. And yet there may be ways for that to happen. And as long as we hold an attachment to how that has to unfold, then we're going to have trouble. We're going to have trouble allowing something else to come true. How we see things, how we manifest things is in our openness of possibility. It's not in our contraction of what I don't like. It's not in my contraction. So one of the things that a really interesting thing to look at is the idea of non-attachment not being about action or inaction. It's not specifically one or the other. So if we're unattached, many people think, well, that means I just don't do anything about it. I just leave it. And inaction is a very powerful action when it's chosen as an action. When I choose to not move on something versus just not doing it out of defeat. I'm not going to bother because it doesn't really matter. And so just let it go. That's very different than saying I'm choosing to be inactive, silent, or whatever your state of inaction is, because that's the best action in this moment. And that's very clearly delineated in Buddhist teachings, that inaction is as powerful as action. So in order to have that, we have to be in a state of being, a state of awareness. It's a mode of awareness. So we talk a lot about awareness, but until we're completely aware of what's going on underneath of our decisions of how to show up for something, so we can't choose to be in action or inaction unless we're aware of what we're choosing. So we have to go back to the center point of that. I need to be really in awareness of what's going on for my whole being, what I'm thinking, how I'm responding, how I'm holding things. So this practice at this time is a core practice for us in our spiritual journey. So we get to take what's going on around us that we don't have a lot of control over right now. We get to take that as a catalyst for us to step into this self-awareness and to step into this place of non-attachment, but being heightenedly aware. In non-attachment, I'm not indifferent and don't notice. I am in a heightened state of awareness in true non-attachment. I'm completely present with what's going on. I'm not hiding from it or ignoring it or spinning it. I am more, maybe more aware, because I'm choosing to be there to witness it. We know all of those studies, those wonderful studies, the blind studies where they do how observation changes outcome of something. And we know from quantum physics, in our awareness, we're changing outcome. So we have to stay in awareness and observation so that we have impact that may be on the subtle realm that we're not even aware of. But to assume that if we can't control something or make impact on a less subtle, on a more physical plane, that we're not affecting change is just not accurate. But in order to affect change on the subtle level, we have to stay so present and aware with ourselves and with our intention, and holding that possibility as an open space, which takes non-attachment in order for us to do that. In the Bhagavad Gita, this unwavering state is compared to a flame in a windless place. A flame in a windless place. I love that vision, that visual. And those who possess it are said to have equanimity in gain and loss, pleasure and pain, and victory and defeat. Evenness, composure, steadiness, calm, stability. These are all states of being that we want to sit in regardless of the external world. And we have to be in non-attachment to stay in those. You can't stay in evenness and composure when you're attached to the movement. We can't be steady and calm and stable. And the more of us that can hold that steady, calm, stable, even position right now will allow for that which has to come forward to come forward. So our job may be so subtle that it doesn't even feel like a job. And yet it's the biggest job to stay as aware and present so that you can hold this space of equanimity. The equivalent of this in biblical terms is the quote or the passage to be in the world but not of it. To be in the world but not of it. We have to learn how to move ourselves a bit away, and that's not detaching in a way that I'm just not involved. It's a choice of non-detachment, of giving myself a perspective that has a little bit of space, that spaciousness that we're talking about. In my life, I have to create spaciousness. And maybe that spaciousness to you is about not being on social media or listening to the news or reading every newspaper thing that comes out. Maybe that's one of the ways, or not having this as your central discussion about the politics of our country right now. Maybe that's one of the ways you create spaciousness so you can stay in the equanimity of the calm, peaceful, in the flame of this windless place. Maybe that's how you choose to be in that place. Maybe that's how you choose to be in the world, but not of it. Because we have this inordinate power today, being the International Day for Women, Women's Day. Women have, we know, we are the source of creation. This is why in the Indian and Eastern tradition, the divine feminine is so powerful. There is no creation without the divine feminine. I mean, if you can't birth it, it can't be so. So we have the potentiality happens within the divine feminine system, which we are carrying around to hold this space. So is there ever a better time than in recent history than now to step into being in the world, but not of it, to consciously say, I'm going to stay seated and present amidst all of this chaos, even though it's disruptive and disturbing to me. And we don't have a choice. Not that attitude. I don't have a choice. I'm here. It's not that attitude. It's that I'm choosing to step into it. And that doesn't mean having to dissect everything and talk about everything and, muse over it and be worried about it. But it means I have to stay in this heightened state of awareness to be available to hold this space of equanimity and to see how I am responding, because I'm one pillar and each of us on this call is another pillar. And the more pillars we have of the available energy to stand in this space, the more we're creating a foundation of equanimity that's so subtle and maybe not even spoken to, but out of that will come whatever's going to come next. Whatever's going to come next. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a passage about Krishna, who is the voice of wisdom and is teaching, the voice of divine wisdom is teaching the protagonist, Arjuna, about not being attached to the fruits of his action. And he teaches that it's not just about knowing about your action or inaction. It's not being attached to whether you're using action or inactions. I'm not attached to which of those. One's not more powerful than the other. One's not more powerful because there's movement. Our assumption is when I'm moving, I'm affecting more change. You may be affecting more change by not moving. The Buddha meant for non-attachment to be interpreted not as indifference or reaction to something, but as a choice. Non-attachment is a choice we step into. It's not a default position of, oh, well, whatever. It's a choice. You can't be compassionate and indifferent at the same time. You can't use cooperation at the same time as intolerance. You have to have tolerance and cooperation. There are these pieces that have to go together. Thich Nhat Hanh had a beautiful passage, which I'm going to type out, put on our chat, because this is so beautiful. It says, what is most important is not to allow your anxiety about what happens in the world to fill your heart. If your heart is filled with anxiety, you will get sick and you will not be able to help. Sorry, I didn't finish it all out. Let me get the whole passage here for you. What can we do to help? How do we help? We help by keeping our heart involved. We help by not removing ourselves. There we go. There's the full quote. We help by not removing ourselves from this and stepping out of it in a sense of I'm not attached. We are attached, but we're attached in this openness and this beauty of fluidity and this subtlety of holding the act of creation, because that's what we are in the world. We are the divine creation. So let's see if we can go into this week holding this equanimity, that we don't remove discord. It's not the same. Recognizing that removing discord is not the same as holding equanimity in the light of discord. If we hold equanimity in the light of discord, it's very different than pushing discord out. So let's hold that equanimity in our hearts, ladies, because we have an enormous power to affect change in the subtlest of ways, and not to be let down that if we aren't picketing, we're not making a change. It takes all different types of movement, but we have an opportunity to step into that which many people don't even look at as power. We have power. It's just in a different way. Happy International Women's Day. The beauty of women all around the world. We rock.
I like what you said. And I think, while you were speaking, I thought, how often do I hear us women say we have to fight it? So we use the language, we fought for our rights. But there is a language that really doesn't fit. It's in the melting, it's in the allowing, it's in, like you said, in our beingness. So maybe we women, we fought so much for the last 50 years. Maybe if we change our language and through that our awareness, that could be where the next shift comes in. But we can't use the language of the past because it just creates friction, and also, men feel pushed away, and then we just have the opposite. They defend. Anyway, that was my thoughts. You were speaking. So I would like for us to move into the heart. So that was a nice little cue, Nicola. So just ensure that you have space for your arms to move, and we will move not harsh this morning. We will use what Nicola said, and we put it into softness, activating our heart and our chakras in a way that we work the auric field of the heart. So you will need to keep your eyes open. I will play some music and you just flow with me. Even in the imperfection, you just keep flowing. You don't have to be perfect.
Ma Namastasye, namo namaha. Lalita Mamba Lalita Devi Maya Vishwamohini Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaha.
Stay with your hands in prayer pose. Bowing to your heart.